Hi and welcome to my little Today I Played series where I want to talk about games I recently played that left an impression on me. It can be a bad impression, a good one, a great one, a special one, whatever. It just needs to make me want to talk about the game. I mostly do this in like a freestyle kind of way without writing a script though, so it could go all over the place. I play these mostly on my stream that you can check out under twitch.tv VentureChan, but enough advertising. Let me tell you about a little rabbit that can do it all. Basically Jumping Flash 1 and 2, there's also this third game that I didn't play because it only released in Japan. The thing is I easily could have played it I think, because most of these games don't really have text, like there's a little bit, but overall the gameplay is very simple without any explanations or whatsoever, and the story is also just kinda there. It's kinda cute, and the third game is also called Rabbit Mon Dieu. I haven't picked French in school, I've picked Latin, and that was even worse. I should have picked French. So maybe it was a good decision I didn't play it. But I think you can probably play it. I will play it one day, even though I checked it online and I read that it's not as great as the first two games. But I will have to judge it by myself, I guess. You know, sometimes it's best to make up your own opinion instead of just following reviews or whatever. Basically, Jumping Flash 1 and 2, you take control of this rabbit space jet thingy called Wobbit. The thing is, Wobbit is a really cute name. It's like Wobbot, but rabbit, you know, because you're a robotic rabbit. And for some reason, the second game has like voice acting, and the announcer's always like, "Oh, Robin, you're the best." And I always heard Robin instead of Wobbit, so I was like, who would call a rabbit Robin? That's not a cute name for a bunny or a rabbit. You know, give it a cuter name. And to be honest, Wobbit is way cuter because it's a fairly little nice pun, even though I hate puns most of the time. Puns are just kind of like the worst attempt at humor. And maybe I'm saying this because I never get puns, because you know, my native language is German, and in we Germans do have puns too, but I hate them too there. But in English, it's always like, oh, I'm not getting this pun. But basically, you play as this little bunny thingy, and you jump around, because that's what bunnies do. In the first game, there's some evil scientist. For some reason they turn him German. Like in the first game he doesn't really talk, but in the second game he suddenly starts talking and he goes like, "Du Dummkopf," which is like a cute word to call someone an idiot. And he speaks like the average German scientist, the evil one that everyone knows from like movies or Metal Gear Rising. And you know, I do enjoy hearing Germans talk in video games, even if it's like the bad representation. But I do like it, you know. It makes me happy seeing evil German scientists. And basically he wants to destroy things, and you have to set out into the worlds, into the stages, to find 4 pot thingies that look like carrots, because obviously bunnies hacking love carrots. So you have to collect them, and if you collect 4 in every stage, you go back to the exit. So every stage is basically you start in a stage, you look around, you find these things, and there's an exit, and you can go in there. And throughout the worlds, there's always like enemies in the levels. There's like extra items you can pick up, which are mostly weapons, where you can shoot firecrackers and fireworks and things that look like nuts that explode. Some of them also, you know, make the time go stop. You know, it's like the Waldo, you know, haha, Jojo reference, hee. And they make the world go frozen, and the timer doesn't tick, and the enemies stop, and it's kind of nice with the way the look changes of the game, because the game also has a timer, and every timer is like 12 minutes, but it's very generous. Like you will never run out of time basically. And some of the later stages get kind of big and stuff, but it's not like too big. It always makes you feel like there's something to explore, but it's like not too much. And basically every stage also has like a bonus stage that looks like one of those Sonic things. Like in Sonic Adventure, for example, when you go to the end of the level, there's like this golden ring and you go through it and level is complete. But here, if you go through those, you get a bonus stage and you have to pop all the balloons, and it's really cute. It reminds me of like, you know, a better time. Nowadays you don't get bonus stages anymore. Now, back in the day, Monkey Ball had bonus stages. This game has bonus stages. And nowadays you don't get bonus stages anymore, because what is there even to do? Like in this game you have lives that you will never really run out of, but you know, nowadays most games don't even have lives anymore. But basically you can do those if you want to. You have to find those. They're kind of fairly hidden well, and you have to jump through them. You have to do like tricky jumps to get to them, high jumps to get to them, and that's the main mechanic of the game. This is like, oh, I checked the wiki page and it said like this was the Guinness World Record book entry for the first true 3D jump and run kind of game. I say jump and runs because that's what Germans call platformers. I'm gonna make a video about the term jump and run because I think, you know, jumping and running is exactly what you do in these games. You don't really run here, you mostly jump, but it fits. You know, you don't really platform. Nobody says, oh, I'm gonna jump from platform to platform. Nobody says that. People say they jump and run. So jump and run fits way better. So you jump on these platforms and, you know, you have to be, you can like jump and then you can press the jump button again to do another jump and then to look where you are, because it's a first person perspective. The camera changes downwards to look at your feet and you have to gauge the jump by the shadow where you land. It's a little bit, you know, tricky at the start, but you get into the hang of things pretty easily. You can also shoot lasers at enemies, but the thing is, the enemies are very cute, so you don't really want to shoot them because killing cute animals always makes me sad in video games. And mostly they don't really attack you, except some that have like rockets, and those are the annoying ones, but some of them just walk around because they're crabs or like kiwi animals, and they don't really attack you. Like, they just walk around, and it makes you feel bad that you hit them sometimes. And then you jump and collect the things, and every world or every stage has like 3 stages. There's like a stage 1, stage 2, and a boss stage where you beat the boss and defeat the boss. And it is pretty easy most of the time. Like, the bosses are easily cheesable because the game is like, hey, we have a Mario Stompy. So basically you can jump on top of the enemies and crush them. And if you jump on top of a boss, some bosses don't have something to get you off. And some try to get you off, but it's kind of easy to stay on top of the head. So you can just stay on the head and jump without falling off. And it's really easy, but some bosses do have mechanics against it. But also the items you can pick up, I have never used them in a normal stage. Like, you don't need to use them. You can keep them for the boss stage, then you spam, and suddenly the boss HP by drains so hacking fast that there's like no way for the boss to do anything before you actually kill it. But also the stages obviously have different worlds. There's an ice world, a beach world, underwater world, carnival world, amusement park world, like all those different kind of worlds. And they, obviously if you look at the graphics, it has this really cute early 3D art style that makes you think everything feels like a fever dream. There's like things floating around, the enemies are cute, like I said, and you yourself are cute, and it has this very nice aesthetic that I don't really know how to explain it, that many people also try to emulate with like YouTube videos nowadays, where they go like into the early 3D stages of geometry and filling worlds with like weird items that float around, and it has this very nice aesthetic that really takes you back to how video games felt to you as a kid, where you didn't know graphics can get better. Obviously, you know, I can't really have nostalgic feelings for this game, but it did give me really nostalgic feelings when I played it. It made me think of me being young again and playing like the first few 3D games, because one of my first 3D games was Mario 64. And Mario 64 has the same kind of feeling with like islands floating in the sky, and you know, it's like a really hard feeling to describe. And this game perfectly fits it, and it's like it's just so memorizing, going through these worlds, seeing what the developer came up with to really make the most out of the early 3D graphics. You know, like a block just looks like a block, it's not a fancy block. Or, you know, the early 3D graphics of a chair. A chair is like not like, it doesn't really have the texture of a chair. You know, I hope it makes sense what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm not great at technical talks. And obviously we also have the music, which is also just amazing. It's like, you hear the music levels and you go like, wow, I could listen to this to relax. Like, this is better than any hi-fi, lo-fi, hip-hop, whatever mix on, trip-hop mix on YouTube that you can listen to. You know, I listen to the OST to really enjoy it, to really soak it in, because when you stream you can't really soak it in that well because you have to talk, you have to think. But if you just listen to music, you go like, I can jump out to this, I can go to the club, even though I don't go to the club, you know. Socially anxiety and everything. You know, clubs are. I went to a club once and it was the worst day of my life, basically. So basically, um, that's like the mechanics of the game, and you know that's kind of the game. The thing is, the only thing I have to say is that the games, both of them, are really short. Like I needed like an hour 30 for like both of them. At the first, you need a little bit longer because you kind of get used to the controls and everything, but then it just flows so well. Even though it has like tank controls, like when you when you want to shoot, for example, you can't aim with the second stick. You have to stand still and then you have to aim. And most of the time, it's like really hard to do when there's enemies shooting at you. There's like 2 enemies shooting at you, and it's like And most of the time, you don't really need to do it. But for the bosses, sometimes you do have to use it because they move around, and then it's easier to, you know, try to aim at them instead of like trying to shoot from the front like you would normally do because you don't really want to take your time aiming. And yeah, that's basically it. It's just really short, but it's a game that I could see myself coming back to when I want to have a fun, good time and want to feel good. Like I could always go back to this game and then beat it again and beat it again because it's short, so you can just, you know, enjoy your time, and you can even play both at the same time with both hands. Even though that sounds kind of hard, not at the same time, but after each other. And everything about these games are just so cute. But here's the main point I read about. I didn't know that this game was basically made by the developers that eventually turned into Japan Studio. You know, the studio that belonged to Sony, that were responsible for. I have a wiki page open, and I'm gonna go a little bit through it to show you how Japan Studio really changed the game for like games in Japan for Sony, or also in the Western world. The thing is, most of these games never really sold too well, sadly, but they always improved the library of the PlayStation franchises. For example, they made Rapid Reload, which is like Metal Slug for the PlayStation 1, Jumping Flash, Arc the Lad, which is like a JRPG series. They made Jumping Jack, not Jumping Jack, that's a different game. Jumping Flash 2, Popolo Croix, which is like a JRPG series again, which you can. It's not nowadays it got a translation. Most of the Japan Studio games, sadly, were also just Japan only and never really released in the West. But some of these games do have translations and everything, and they worked on so many games, and you know the list is like endless. And there's going to be a game that maybe you won't even realize that it was. The thing is, most of these games were worked on together with other people. Like not all of these games were just made by them. They also helped. They were like a support studio, but also making their own games. Basically, Parappa the Rapper, Wild Arms, the Ghost in the Shell video games that were okay, like not the best, but they were decent. Alundra, very nice Zelda clone killer for the PlayStation 1. The Grand Stream Saga, another RPG. Everybody's Golf that everybody knows. Wait, let me go down. Pocket Moo Moo, which is like a jumping flash game, but like for the PlayStation Pocket thingy. I'm Jama Lammy. I love Lammy. I'm not a furry, a little bit. And here we go, Ape Escape. They were responsible for Ape Escape, Wild Arms 2, Legend of the Dragoon, Ribbon. They really loved bunny characters. I do it too. And there's also this series called Boku no Natsuyasumi. I totally butchered that pronunciation, I think. Which is like this feel-good vacation kind of game that sadly never really got to Europe. I mean, the Shin-Chan game, that is like, that game came, and it's a pretty good game, especially if you love Shin-Chan. They made Dark Cloud 2, I think American, was it called sorry, Dark Cloud 2, I think that's like the European name, or was it the American one? Like in America it's called Dark Chronicle, the second game, and here in Europe it was still Dark Cloud 2 or something like that. And here's my personal favorite, which I didn't even know till I checked the list that they helped on these games, Okage Shadow King. It's my most underrated PlayStation 2 JRPG, and JRPG in general, the most underrated one. Check it out, please. I need to make a video about Okage the Shadow King. The thing is, I want to tell people that it's a good game, but I'm not a PewDiePie with 100 million of subscribers that will then check the game out, because, well, if you see this video, you probably, it won't reach that many people who have to read, you know. Also, they did work on Mr. Mosquito, and that's a great game. I actually played it and it's not great. I lied. Parappa the Rapper 2, and also they made like Ico or Eco, Dual Hearts, Shadow of the Colossus, and the list goes on and on. And here, through the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era, they made like most of their great games and worked on most of the great games. And when we get like to the PlayStation 3 era, they kind of lost their touch a little bit. They didn't make these crazy Japanese feeling games, and that's why I loved them, because most of the games feel like, yeah, this was made in Japan, like in a good way. It's just so out there. It's like most of the games are so different from all the other games that you can get on the market. Like they created so many franchises that sadly died because Sony closed the studio, and that's why I'm so mad at Sony. But here's the point, that they helped on Bloodborne. Many people don't know that. Like it wasn't just totally just From Software that did Bloodborne. It also was Japan Studio. And sadly, Japan Studio, Sony was basically like, hey, you guys, your games never really sell well. We want to be different now. We want to, go for the Western market. And Sony changed for me during the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 era. It's mostly just, we want to make Western games. We don't really look too much at the Japanese market anymore. You have a lot of history, but we don't care. Your games don't sell. Now we turn you into studio or Team Asobi that works on the Astrobot games, which I don't personally like. They look like soulless little bots. Like, do you remember these little dog things that were everywhere during like the early 2000s? That's what Astrobot looks to me. Like one of those generic dog robot thingies, but he's a little bot instead of a dog, and his games look like mobile games to me, like bland, generic. It doesn't feel very soulful. Like, I know that people say, wow, Astrobot games are so fun, but it's a former shell of what the studio used to be, in my opinion. But there's different opinions on that, but I do think it's kind of sad how Sony basically just closed the studio with so much history, with so many game franchises they helped working on, helped creating, and that just makes me sad, and I don't know what else to say. But if you really want to have a good feel game, Jumping Flash 1 and 2, I can recommend these games to everyone. They actually joined my favorite games of all time games. That's how good they felt to me. Like, you just played and you get soaked into this, or you get sucked into this experience of just feeling fun. Everything about this game feels fun. Like a fever dream fun. I never had a fever dream, but this is what I would imagine it to. Also, there's a level with a shower. You literally can turn on the shower by clicking a button. Like, there's like so many little details in every stage too. And I really wish there would be a new game like this, but Jumping Flash. The thing is, those games are also available on the PlayStation Network things, so you can buy them there, but I emulated them. But I do think, the copies are still fairly cheap. I checked on eBay, it's like $50. Like, obviously $50 for an old game. I could buy a new game from that. Actually, new games cost like $90. Fuck everyone who does that. I will not do that. Most of those games also, go down. But that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is Jumping Flash 1 and 2. Some of the greatest games I've ever played, and you should check them out too. And, I love them. And I hope you enjoyed the video by me ranting mostly about Sony closing one of my favorite studios. I miss Ape Escape. The thing is, Jumping Flash gave me the same feeling I got when playing Ape Escape. A game that I will never get to feel again. And that makes me really sad. But I still have to play the third one, even when people say it's not the best one. I kind of didn't talk too much about the second game, which is basically like the first game. Like, there's not many changes. It feels the same. And sometimes a sequel doesn't have to be different to be good or better. I love both of them equally. Like, it feels like a level expansion pack, but that's not a bad thing sometimes. Sometimes you just want more of the same. You don't need to have like crazy inventions. So hopefully when I play the third game, it won't feel too different. So I hope you enjoyed it. I already said that. Have a good one.